Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be doing my 5th annual garden tour. I'm in Zone 9B, Central Florida. Pineapples I've actually done pretty well at over the last couple of years, but another good year for them. You can see the one over here leaning over. Actually, there's two over there. A new addition to my food forest is that I put water spigots all throughout it. It's going to make it easier to, instead of dragging the hose clear across the yard, we'll have easy access to water. Suriname cherry. We had a really dry spring, so this only produced a couple. Didn't really. I don't even think I ate one of them this year. And then the Grumi Chama. And actually, you may have noticed in this area it looks different if you've followed my past food forest tours. My fencing's different now, so this is narrow, more narrow. So I actually moved my Grumi Chama back, and it recovered real well. So I got a net over it because I've had a problem with fruit fly larvae getting into the cherries, and so I want to see if I can prevent that. This actually has cherries on it. I'll show you that here in a minute, but yeah, I got a whole new fence just for easy access. Hopefully I'll be able to get my mulch drops right here back behind the gate. But anyways, back on the Grumi Chama. So I had one the other day, and we hadn't had much rain. It's been a pretty dry summer. And they're kind of dry, and they're really, I don't know if it's got just a strong tannin taste to them. So they're not good right now. I did water it the other day, but I haven't been neglecting everything. But maybe I'll give it a couple more days just to see if they get a little bigger. They were bigger than this last time. Juicier, they had a better taste. They do have a nutmeggy finish to them, and that taste is really strong right now. So maybe just a bad year for them. Maybe they just, if you have them, make sure you're watering them good. And I'll see if that netting works for keeping the fruit fly larvae out. I did get some longevity spinach, which I threw in different spots in the food forest. I threw that right there. It's really expanding. It was just a small little plant, but it's doing good. Let's move on here to the backyard. This area as well, I had to kind of move around. This is a cutie from seed. It wasn't a cutie, but it's one of those little tangerine type citrus I grew from seed, and it is doing really well. It seems to hold up real well against citrus greening. It does have a sister plant started from seed as well in the back, and it looks horrible. That one gets more sun. This one's kind of hidden, so I don't know if it's just kind of tucked away, and maybe it just doesn't get much pest pressure being here hidden under this mango tree and under this Mexican sunflower. But it's doing pretty good. I'm just curious to see what's going to do when it fruits for me. It's probably going to be sour because that's typically what happens with citrus, but we'll see what happens. And more pineapples here. One thing that I have a problem with raccoons, so I make sure that I take some really stinky weeds, just whatever smells strong in your yard, and just put those around your pineapples as they're starting to turn yellow. Because as soon as they kick off that sweet fragrance, the critters are going to go after them. So that's how I protect my pineapples. It worked for the first pineapple I harvested this year. The Mexican sunflower, this is way overgrown. I gotta cut this back. So I'll be doing that soon. And what I do is I run it through my chipper, and this is a nice nitrogen fixer. So I'll run it through my chipper and have this big pile of Mexican sunflower, and I'll just spread it out, use it as a green manure. And this right here is my mango tree, which this is from seed, which I talked about this in the past. And it fruited really well this year. It's actually one side of the tree fruited really well, but most mangoes that I see, it's typically like you have one big mango hanging, but as you can see, there's clusters of mangoes. They're actually a good size. They're like, I'll show you they got kind of a cylinder seed in there, so there's a lot of fruit. It's an okay mango. Again, it's from seed, so it's not like one of your top varieties, but we like them. The one thing about them is that you cannot let these go full ripe, because it just turns into like this juicy mess of fibers. Like it's fibrous and it just falls apart when you start to peel it. So you got to get them when they're turning yellow, but not full yellow yet. But it's a good mango. And then I got a Barbados cherry back in there, and it didn't really produce. It's a dwarf Barbados cherry, and it hasn't produced real well. We haven't had a lot of rain, so it usually responds real well when we're getting plenty of rain. But yeah, I'll give you a good shot. See, there's all those mangoes. We've eaten a lot of them too already. So, and as you can see, I propped this thing up because I figured the more that are low, you know, when they ripen, the raccoons will start getting them. There really hasn't been any pest pressure on these at all. I have heard that squirrels will go after them and raccoons and stuff, but maybe just it's when they turn sweet, they release that aroma that attracts in the animals. But so far so good on that. Give you a little bonus shot of my crepe myrtles. So the second one from the left is the one that it was a white, and I grafted on lavender so I can make all these the same. I have a whole video on that if you want to check that out, on grafting onto crepe myrtle. And this is a Tagenbolia tree. It produces the really brilliant yellow flowers. It started leaning on us real heavily after the hurricane. I've been meaning to use the oak trees over here in the front yard to tie a rope and straighten it back out. So probably need to do that before hurricane season. Turk's cap hibiscus hedge here. This used to be much deeper, but I've made it much more narrow because I want to use this space here. This is my Hikachi. I think that's how you pronounce it. Persimmon. So I have a fuyu in the back. It is a non-astringent, which means that you can eat the fruit before it's soft. Whereas an astringent, you have to wait till it's fully ripened to eat it. Otherwise, it's going to taste real bad. I guess it's going to be really sour. So this Hitachi is astringent, and apparently they do much better in South Florida. So my fuyu is supposed to do well in Central Florida and North Florida, but maybe we're just on the verge of being in South Florida, weather-wise, zone-wise. Fuyu, just like I said, hasn't done a thing, so I'm just going to give this astringent variety a chance to see how well it performs, to see if it'll actually fruit for me. Because I've had that fuyu for a long time, and I've still yet to try the first persimmon. Actually, I haven't seen the first persimmon fruit on there. I don't think it's even flowered. So I'll probably do a video on that, comparing the two varieties. Over here is my first cultivated variety of avocado. I've got several from seed, but this is a Donny right here. It's a Florida style avocado, so it's going to be not going to be the kind that you would use for making guacamole. It doesn't have a lot of oil content like the Mexican varieties. There are some of those varieties that you can grow in Florida. Not all of them. Haas doesn't do well here, but they have something called a Brogdon. So I'd like to get one of those. But for now, I got this Donny, and it's got new growth on it. So it's kind of, I heard that it's almost 4th of July, so that explains the neighbors shooting off fireworks. But so it's kind of taken a while to just get going, but this, recently just shot off this new growth. So that tells me it's healthy. It's decided to grow. It's likes this spot. So hopefully, it'll get going here. And excuse the yard. It's not mowed. I've got to get my son out here because I've been doing other things. And I'm sure you notice all the dirt, but I just installed the water lines, so you'll see a lot of that. And then also with the hurricane, we had to cut trees out of here. There were 2 big, huge trees in here that smashed these Namwa bananas. The parent bananas smashed them. So I had to get all that out of here, get this area kind of graded out again, and so just there's all kinds of spots like that in the yard because of the hurricane. But yeah, these Namwas are recovering, obviously new growth. Don't expect bananas from them this year. But what I did get is this dwarf Brazilian. It actually just shot out a banana flower. The first time this shot out a banana flower, the rack did not develop at all. So I'm hoping this time the rack will develop, because this is actually the first banana I've ever had do that. So any others that shot out racks, they typically develop if you don't get, and at least you get some bananas out of them if you don't get like a decent sized rack. Now I got some succession going on here. So bananas is like that first plant you install, and kind of can take over an area, block out the weeds and all that stuff. But what I've been doing is planting. So as you can see, I got the mulberries in there. You'll see other things. This right here is a lacatan. The double Mahoy, which has only done this. It's never like grown up real healthy and produced a rack. So yeah, that's maybe it's just a bad spot because there's a lot of shade in here. I got this avocado tree and an oak canopy ahead up above. So maybe it's just too shady in here for that. At some point, maybe I need to move one of these out of here and just try it in another spot. Cavendish in there in the middle. This is an avocado from seed. It looked like it was trying to flower this year, but we had a really dry spring. Probably should have watered it much more to get those blooms to take and the fruit to set. Yeah, so that was kind of a bonus in that I actually saw blossoms on it. Another mulberry. And then this is a mango from seed. The mama is a Hayden. Hayden is apparently the mama to a lot of the varieties that are very popular. So I went ahead and planted all the Hayden seeds that I got. I had 5 Haydens. I'll show you that tree here in a second. But I had 5 Hayden fruits, and so I planted all those seeds. Some more pineapples. This is my dwarf Puerto Rican plantain. One of them, the one over here, it tried to produce a rack coming out of the winter, but it just got too beat up during the winter. These are they're not as tolerable to the cold as the other banana varieties. So it had a rack on it, but it didn't have enough leaves and just was kind of beat up. So the rack failed on me. And here is my starfruit. This is from seed and it's doing pretty good. And then over here is my dwarf Namois. I'm doing a video on this one where I showed how it handled the freeze, this very plant, how it handled the freeze, and then I think it was January, February, it shot out a flower and produced this rack. It only had so many leaves on it because of the freeze, but I just want to show how resilient it is through a cold snap. So I have a separate video on that, showing that whole progression. Another Hayden baby right there, so we'll see what happens with that. Again, succession, it'll grow up. You'll have a lot of mangoes and mulberries in here, the avocado tree in the middle, and if I can fit the bananas in here, they can remain, but bananas are easy to relocate. So as you can see, I got a lot of, this is kind of like, put a lot of my yard waste in here. I don't really throw out much yard waste unless my wife gets a hold of it first, so she'll usually put it out beside the road. But here's a lot of my pineapples. We got one here starting to turn yellow. I did put some weeds by it to protect it. This is kind of fragrant in a bad way, and hopefully it'll protect it. Same there, it's starting to turn yellow. And some of these pineapples are good sized pineapples. Typically the homegrown ones, a lot of times they're smaller than what you got from the store, but these have actually, some of these are rather large, so I'm not sure soil has anything to do with that, but there's another one there. And so the tree from the neighbor's yard fell and took out some philodendrons. So like I had to move some pineapples during all that cleanup. So I put them in here. And so actually I need to cut back the philodendrons in there. And so I got some pineapples over here as well. So it's kind of like I got a big gap here and then pineapples on both sides. And then this is an avocado from seed. It would be taller, but my son ran over it with a lawnmower, so that's why there's a tomato cage right there so that he knows not to run over it. If you ever plant a Hass avocado seed or any of those Mexican style avocados in Florida, they don't really like our weather, maybe our soil, something, probably humidity. And so they'll grow, but they just kind of look like this. I mean, this thing probably should be 20 foot tall by now. You're better off to, go buy like one of those big, fat, Florida variety avocados. They're not the, high oil content avocados, but, like I said, if you want success from just growing an avocado from seed, you need to get the Florida type. This right here is a mango that it has slowly grown up through these philodendrons. It's finally broke past their canopy and is starting to grow much faster. This is several years old. It's just grown really slowly because of philodendrons. But my thought process for putting it in there was that, you know, that while it's young, the philodendrons would serve to protect it from the winter. And it worked out real well. I never had any problems with this freezing back. I would go in here and cut the philodendron leaves back to kind of open it up so it can get some sunlight. And whenever I did that, it helped this move along quicker. So I was recently at Echo. We were down at the beach in South Florida, and my main purpose for wanting to go down to that area to go to the beach is because it was near Echo. I wanted to get the Echo tour and then check out their nursery. And so I was able to buy this Shangri-La when I was there. But if you ever get the opportunity, if you're in Fort Myers, check out Echo. They have a really great mission, a Christ-centered mission on feeding, actually equipping the low-income farmers across third world nations on how to use some techniques, some natural techniques to farm, you know, because they don't have access to a lot of the modern equipment or fertilizers. So they give them techniques to help them to become successful. They're trying to feed the masses by making them self-sufficient. And a really, really good mission, just a good opportunity to see what they're doing and then get a tour of their gardens and the different strategies that they teach. And so we'll slide back over here. And so there's the Hayden mango that I was talking about. I had 5 last year. Now, one thing I learned recently is that when your mangoes are flowering, water them, and then when the fruit is setting, water them, like, you know, every 2 to 3 days for that fruit to keep. And the reason why I discovered that is because when this flowered, it was covered in blossoms. I only got 5 mangoes off of it. And the reason why I only got 5 is because I didn't water it, I didn't do anything. I just let it do its thing, and I ended up with 5 mangoes. And I wasn't sure why that was, but then I learned a little tidbit from YouTube to water your mangoes when they're flowering and when they're fruiting. And so you saw the mango tree there in the front. That's what I did this year. I watered it, and so that's what made the difference. That's why I got all those mangoes up there. So whenever Christmas time comes around or birthday, I always send some links to my family saying, hey, if you guys want to figure out what to get me. So this right here was a link for Flying Fox Farm for their white chipotle cava. So that's what that is. And actually my daughter bought one for me and my wife. So I have 2 of these. So that's a good problem to have. This is just a citrus from seed. I had it in my greenhouse, and I don't even know where the seed come from, if it's lemon or what. I usually just throw them in the ground, and maybe I can use it as a rootstock one day. And then right here I have a sugar apple, and this thing has kind of died on me a couple times. Well, it looked like it died on me, but you just kind of keep it watered because it is exposed to some sun here. But I had it in my greenhouse here when it was germinating. The sugar apple just didn't seem to like the hot, humid greenhouse, so I went ahead and put it in the ground before it developed. But over there you see I got to get them planted. Those are swamp apples. I got a sugar apple actually grafting onto the swamp apple because they're in the same family. And so I'm going to use the swamp apple, which is a Florida native, as a rootstock for one of the sugar apples. One of the swamp apples, I'm just going to let it grow. You can eat them. They don't have as much flavor like as a sugar apple or as a Adamoya or Cherimoya, but I still think it'd be cool to have it in the yard. And then I have all kinds of stuff in the greenhouse. I'll actually have a separate video on that soon. Got some bamboo, and this bamboo is taking a while. The reason why we got this is because instead of buying poles online, we want to be able to just grow our own bamboo stalks to grow green beans on. So it's starting to get thicker. It's leaning a lot. I'm probably going to just tie a big rope around it to help it grow upright. Here, let me show you. So it's getting thicker, and at some point it's going to look like what you typically see with bamboo. You know, there's these big clusters. And this is the clumping type. You don't want the runners because then you'll have bamboo just popping up everywhere. This stays in one big clump.